Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today to Create a World, our beautiful YouTube channel that was created by Tantra Mott and a team of collaborators. I'm Kristen Onderdonk, and I'm a guest today with my friend Monique Lang. Well, I'll let introduce herself in a moment, but I want to share with you a little bit about Create a World as I understand it to be. Create a World for me is a place where men and women come together in community and they talk about life as it rises for them in the moment. And we don't prescribe to know or suggest that you do or be any other way than you are. We just simply show up as friends and listen to what rises. And Create a World operates with the field of Tantra Mott and those principles that we hold dear as a field. And maybe they resonate for you. So I want to share them with you. So we have four principles of the field of Tantra Mott. And they are that everything is a part of everything else. And I want to put a pin in that actually. These are not unique principles to our field, but they may even extend out into all fields and all your communities. So everything is a part of everything else. Everything has a place. Everything is operational on behalf of everything else. And everything is moving life to the next greater whole. Let's just be with that moment for a moment and take a breath and see how that lands, to know that you are included in this group, however you find this channel and wherever you are in your world and your life. We just celebrate the chance to be here together and talk together as friends, Monique and I, and see what rises. So, like I said, I'm a guest collaborator here, a facilitator, here to do something I don't normally do. I don't normally interview people. I'm Kristen Onderdonk, and I'm a trainer and a coach, an author, a mother, a soulful individual out here sorting my own life out as well in community with everyone else. And I had the opportunity to reconnect with Monique Lang, beautiful friend and colleague, my personal shaman, recently. And I think I've known you, Monique. Gosh, I think I've known you. I was thinking back to when we may have first met. And I want to say it was when my now 23-year-old was about 8 or 10. So a long time. And I think I met you at our friend Meg Tobin, another beautiful individual doing amazing work on the planet, a licensed therapist. And she has a studio called Breathing Spaces. And I think you were there doing a workshop to lead some educational and awareness on internal family systems, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure that I was drawn to one of your books, rituals, I think meditations and ceremonies. And Monique has done several works of literature and books that I'll let you speak to, but that one really resonates. I remember I loved the workshop. I connected immediately as if we were like soulmates in another lifetime, most likely we're still sitting here today. And I brought that book home. And I think shortly after that, I booked a session with you, which I remember distinctly and vividly. You helped me clear a childhood, teenage trauma, sexual trauma in my life. And I sit here in awe at the timing of today, actually, because we went on to do some work together. Later on, I booked you for another session, I think during COVID, and you helped me clear another hurdle in my own journey to be able to complete my book. So, and to move with what was moving in our own life. I had, since meeting you that first time, was able to have another daughter, celebrating just the timing of this, because we were trying to coordinate a day for us to meet online here. And I know that the schedule shifted and we landed here today. And I'm pleased with that in timing, because it only reiterates for me and validates the divine nature of we are meant to meet when we're meet in this life and move with what's moving. So I thought I'd share with you, just so you know, yesterday Alexis started med school, the one that was 8 when I first was on your table. And I completed a retreat yesterday with the facilitators that you encouraged me to continue to finish the book and continue sharing what was on my heart to share with Stop and Flow. And we celebrated in a retreat yesterday with the Krause group. So thank you for believing in me and believing in us in this way. And it seems profound today to like just kind of celebrate that and frame it as such. I did not prepare much to like look at what we're going to talk about your journey, and we're going to talk. I'm going to let you do that so beautifully yourself. I would not begin to know how to frame what you have done in your lifetime. It's profound and motivating for many. Um, but we're going to start here. Like, I did not approach this as like a study session where I wanted to take notes and know what you've been up to. So I want you to kind of put me in that category of just stranger on the street. We're meeting for lunch, and you just tell me what you want to tell me to keep me up to date as to what we've missed out on or not been in direct communication these past years. I celebrate that you took this leap of faith, because I haven't given you a lot of information about what this isn't about and what is all this. And you're just like, yes, I'll meet with you online live. Very brave. So with that, I want to turn it over to you and tell the world who you are and what you would love to share with us today.
Well, thank you, Kristen. It's lovely to be with you. And thank you for the invitation. I love lunch. So I always like to start with coming back to ourselves. And the way to do it is through a little meditation that I'd like to get you on. So I invite you all to sit with your back straight if you can, or lie down. You might want to close your eyes. This is going to be very short. And a lot of my training has been with Indigenous people. And so I like to use a drum, because the drum is really the rhythm of Mother Earth. And so we can all resonate to its sound. So without much ado, so let yourself breathe in and out. Simply connecting with your breath. In this moment, allow yourself to just be, to be with your breath. The sustainer of all life. And let yourself connect with your heart, your physical heart, and your emotional heart. And ask your heart what it would like you to know. What message does your heart have for you today? We're going to take a little while here. And thanking your heart for whatever message it has brought you. And returning your attention to your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Becoming aware of any sounds around you, any scents or perfumes. Becoming aware of your body on whatever surface you are on. And when you are ready, let yourself come back to this time and place. Very slowly, you might want to stretch. Open your eyes.
Monique, thank you.
You're
To
welcome.
frame this as having lunch with a friend, and we weirdos out here actually do meditate at lunch, and we go places that no one else goes before. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I was really struck by the sound vibration, because we were playing around with the drum a bit before. I'm so thankful that technology allows us to have this lunchy space together virtually. I know you're traveling and I'm home, but it's so cool because the technology that was kind of allowing your voice, as soon as you spoke, the drum could be heard, the subtle drum beat, and it may have only been just a few seconds of it, but it got me into a rhythm where I could, even after that, feel the resonance of the drum beat remaining, and then subtle sound over with the drum would pick up the mic would pick up the drum, and it was all of a sudden that like right in rhythm with the connection. And the first one of my clair audiences is hearing, and I distinctly just kept hearing, even when you can't hear me, I am here, I am holding you, be held. Even when you can't hear me, I am here, holding you, be held. So I just love it. I love the glitches. Lately I've been really laughing at the things we view as the unworkable or the mistake, the glitches, the things that just don't do the things that we want them to do in the moment. But yet if we relax into it, which so beautifully took us there fast, so often our heart, and it just opens us up to so much. That's a real both and that I think the field of Tantra Mat is the as above, so below, the Tantra, and then Mat being the eye, the tear, the symmetry, harmony, balance, proportion, grace, and that word grace just comes in because we are living in times where we think we know how things work and we want them to cooperate. And then what if the both and of, what if we wait and listen to what our Mother Earth and the heart and the elements are trying to get through to us, and just breathe, what if? So often beautiful messages come through for me, and I hope that one resonates. I want to start with your website, because I was also, maybe a month ago when we were talking about doing this, I was so struck by the synchronic language that's on your website, on my website, on Tantra Mat's website, on the Language of Consciousness Institute, which is the Create a World collaborators all kind of hail from. And we use the templates. I've talked to you a little bit about writing templates that came through from Tantra Mat, the individual, Tantra Mat, the collective. And so I was struck by the language synchronicity. Like your website says something, to the effect of step more fully into your authentic self, I think is what I saw. Mine says, let yourself drive. I know we forget what we put out there in the world, especially the websites, they get a little forgotten, like a business card. And then years later, we look at them and go, oh, that's why they found me. But ours actually really marry nicely, and as does Tantra's, which is awaken your being, and the Language of Consciousness Institute is all about learning your direct link with creation, know thyself, this connection. So talk to me about your journey to really put yourself out there in this time, in this place, in this world, to help people find their authentic self. I know you've been a licensed clinical social worker since the 80s. But what else? It's just like, you've done a lot of things, my friend. So I'd love for you to share that with our viewers.
So I think mostly I've answered invitations. One of my teachers once said, just say yes. With discernment. But it's about being willing to say yes to whatever opportunity comes to us, even if they feel a little funky or uncomfortable. So I think when I look back at my journey, it's really been about willing to say yes to whatever came up, which has been all over the place a little bit and very gratifying. So I think of myself a lot at this point more as a bridge So as you mentioned, I'm a clinical social worker. I've also studied with indigenous people in Brazil and Ecuador. And what I like to do now is help people bridge. And in a way, it's what my teacher Shairi used to say, it's moving, he would say, from the head to the heart. And we would say moving from left brain to right brain. Or the other way around. I always get confused. So it's about allowing ourselves to be more spontaneous and more creative, whatever that means for any of us. And in my work, it's really about weaving together the practices of modern psychotherapy, mostly internal family systems, but others, and indigenous practices, which is what my book is all about.
Yeah. I love that word bridge. And it is something that, I know you do some workshops. I met you at one on internal family systems, but I know now you're doing some workshops. I think you have one coming up at Capallo. And I think you were telling me the last time we met, actually near the bridge, because we were doing, now that interesting. The last thing you just said spontaneously yes to and drove all the way across town was for the work we did by the water at the Three Rivers Bridge. Interesting. Yeah. We did some beautiful heart space meditations there by the water. But you were mentioning, I think then as you were leaving, that you were invited to Bali, is it? Or I know it was is that right?
Bali.
Yeah. I think the more that we say yes, the more these things come up. And yet we're still a little bit like, really? Is this really being offered to me? Like, should I say? That's but right. Tell me about that. What a beautiful invitation seems to be.
I'm excited. I think it'll be great fun. I'm teaching.
What will you be doing there? Yeah.
I'm teaching. So I've created, for lack of a better word, this model called earth-based psychotherapy, which weaves together Western psychotherapy with earth-based practices, using the elements, using plants and earth and water, and to anchor in, especially I work with a lot of therapists, but even for regular people, because therapists are not regular. It's in Western thinking, we're very much in our head, and we are not particularly embodied in the therapies practices. It tends to be there's some artwork and often, but it's mostly a narrative. By utilizing these earth-based practices, for example, we use water for cleansing and letting go. And so I will really invite people to take a bath, and we decide when and what kind of bath, depending on what it is that they need to be cleared from their physical body, particularly people who have had physical abuse of any kind. We keep the physical energetics of that event, even after we've worked it through psychologically, intellectually. But by doing these rituals, the ceremonies that have been in cultures all over the world for millennia, we move from the purely intellectual, so to speak, to the physical, to the energetic. So this is where I'm spending a lot of time these days, is teaching people and helping people how to blend these practices that are more ritualistic, ceremonial, and earth-based. And I don't call it shamanic. First of all, I'm not a shaman. I was not initiated. I've worked with a lot of shamans, but I was never initiated formally. And I take that very seriously. But working with many shamans, curanderos, yachaks, the impact of working with the elements, working with nature in tradition, and our bodies actually, our body mind actually remembers, because in epigenetics, we know that we are coded to respond to nature and those practices. So blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, keep going with that, because it's interesting you bring up that epigenetics word. We almost lost friends to like boredom the other night at dinner, because we were having a conversation, probably went from something about sports and the Yankees suddenly to my husband mentioning epigenetics. And there's nothing that ruins a conversation than throwing in a word like epigenetics, and everybody glosses over and like heads hit the table.
You're talking about baseball, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I really, so take us a little further, if you wouldn't mind, into how you view epigenetics. And I think people, all of us who come to these, to YouTube in particular, to find more information, and information finds us when we're meant to. That word again strikes me as something to maybe let's lean into that a little bit. For me, epigenetics is just such a fascinating field, because we now know that we can change the narrative, and that changes a ripple effect in everything that we do. And I kind of view it as like when we look at the genes, as like a library of books, and we don't have to pick up some books off the shelf. Like we can often, know that they're there and not necessarily lean into them or read further into them. That's just my perspective. Maybe a good analogy I read somewhere. I don't know who I could give credit to, but nonetheless. But yeah, I mean, talk to us a little bit more about that, because I find what you said fascinating about, especially with the water, the element of cleansing. And, it's the moving, it's that water art, that release. And so with epigenetics as a frame, what more can you say about that? Or would you like to say about that?
Well, I mean, so this is something, I don't even know if it's true, but I believe it, that we have not only physiological DNA, but we have emotional and memory DNA, which I think is what epigenetic refers to. I'm not big on epigenetic. I don't know that much about it. And so I believe that we resonate, our body minds resonate to the practices that we have lost in this culture, that were part of our DNA for millennia. So our brain might not really know that, but our higher knowing, I don't even know what to call it. Our body spirit knows it, because we resonate, right? And I'm also a past life regressionist, so I know that we carry beliefs and resonances from past life. So it's not only our biological lineage from this life. So we bring in the lineage of our ancestors way back, further back than we knew. which is, I think, what the epigenetics is about. And we also bring in memories and remembrances from our own past lives.
Yeah. It really resonates with the work that we're doing here in the field of Tantra Mat and the personal journey that I'm on as well. And actually why Don mentioned the conversation, because we're really looking at, what are the things that we just naturally were drawn to in this life to, whether it's, I love boating, or I love this, or I love that. I just love a good costume drama. Why might that be? And then why do I get to choose whether I continue to watch, read, learn about that, or let that be something that just, came in as a frequency that I might be moving with in this life that isn't maybe, maybe serving, maybe not, but just this remembrance that is where that physiological, I think, is what you're pointing to.
Right. And we think of physiology as our bodies, but I think of our physiology as more than just, this, as my friend calls, the meat suit.
The meat suit, love that. Yeah. The body that we are, inhabiting, that. Yeah, but then all of the sparks, the hormones, the emotions, the frequency and the vibration of what's happening under that meat suit, the skin, and what is felt in this real way. We sweat, all of that, like the expressions of us releasing energetically and receiving energetically. Yeah, very cool. I imagine that you do a lot of, when you said you work with a lot of therapists, I imagine that that's really helpful for them, because I know I'm not a therapist. I take that very seriously. I'm a coach and a trainer, but I work with a lot of therapists as well. And I hold space as well in that way for others to explore, what is theirs to have and be and do in this meat suit, in this lifetime, and, what feels good for them, and in the midst of all of the things that are going on around them. So that does come often as you said, as a narrative of its own of, like what, I'm okay, everything's great, there's all this, but no, we really do feel drawn to take a moment to take a bath, for example, or, to light a candle. And we can't often put our fingertips on why that's so important until we come into this experience of ceremony, really ceremony that is ancient. I'm really thankful that you're out there in the world supporting people, including myself. I won't call you a shaman anymore for me. my modern day. I do respect that as well. It's so important that we live in the, the respect for these ancient traditions as well, and the people who cultivate the rituals and pass those along.
I mean, for me, it's a little bit of a pet peeve, because there are so many people now who call themselves shamans who are not.
Yeah.
Who have not some have, but first of all, you never call yourself a shaman. It is something that is bestowed upon you by the community. And it takes years and years and years and years of apprenticeship. You don't go to a 3-day workshop and call yourself a shaman. So
yeah. And in the West, sometimes that both and, it's like, I'm thankful that you pointed that out. Just a bit of a slight, it's subtle, but it's so important. It's really important to, to get clarity on language. So thank you. And my understanding as well is that you have spent quite a bit of time with the shamans and with the community, really immersing yourself in the community. I imagine that many perceive you in that light, but I honor that maybe that has not been formally granted in this moment. So, So what about this earth-based, plant-based psychotherapy? I know, like, I hear a lot from colleagues and friends who've traveled and even taken trips to, places and have had ayahuasca experiences and psychedelic experiences. Is that part of what happens on these retreats and things that happen around the world that you've been a part of? And is there any part of that that you want to bring to light or share? I know we in the West here do things differently. I've even heard a lot about ketamine assisted therapy. We're hearing that more in the recovery treatment community that I'm with. Being used very wisely and smartly, and even in ceremony, even like bringing the pharmaceuticals into wholeness, everything a part of everything else, right? I don't know how that navigates, but I'm interested in that aspect coming in now in our time of being a way through to bridge and understand maybe more of the wholeness of who we are and cellular memory or remembrance, all of that.
So plant medicine, the way you're describing it, with hallucinogens, psychedelics, I don't do it. I take people to people who do them. So the ayahuasca, it takes like, I don't know, 12 years to be initiated to be an ayahuasquero. I mean, it's no joke. So, and usually it's a lineage. It's in a family. And so I work mostly in Ecuador, and so they use ayahuasca and San Pedro. San Pedro is similar, has a very small amount of, it's similar to peyote. And it's considered a heart opener, and it works on your nervous system. And ayahuasca is very misunderstood here, because all the reports that we get on ayahuasca are about people who have this phantasmagorismic journeys. And so that's one kind of ayahuasca. But ayahuasca is a combination of the vine, the ayahuasca vine, and the chacruna leaf. Depending on the purpose for which it is brewed with other different herbs and plants. So it can be brewed for vision, it can be brewed for purging, or it is often brewed as medicine. Like I was working with somebody and he got a phone call, somebody had a stomach ache, and they sent him some ayahuasca, which is neither purgative nor psychedelic. So they use it as medicine. So here again, there are people who are here in the West who serve it with integrity. And there's a lot of people who don't. So I am highly, highly cautious. I'm particularly cautious of people who advertise it in a big way. Mm-hmm. But that's me. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I'm cautious. Ketamine, I don't know that much about. Meg Tobin knows much more about it. The thing is, the way she does it is in a ceremonial, therapeutic way. The problem with ketamine, as I understand it, is that as it's becoming more and more medicalized, of course, they're mowing the lawn, right? As it becomes more and more medicalized, what's happening is you have all these ketamine clinics where people go in, they get an infusion, they're left in this lovely room, and there's no processing. My understanding is that ketamine works on, Meg knows way more about this than I do. I think it's the left hemisphere, and allows for greater plasticity And if you can do that and do a therapy session at the same time, then you're actually changing the neural pathways and making, but if you're just taking the medicine and it's not being processed, I don't know, I have doubts about it.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's where I was going. Like what happened yesterday, we actually were talking, some of the therapists, and they were remarking on someone who was getting the ketamine, maybe street value or somewhere else. Again, someone we'd be cautious of. And it was really, they were just doing this on their own and, just using it like they would use any other street drug or, to without any intervention. And it was just really problematic. Right. So we have this both and of how, even with the ayahuasca, the way you were describing it, there are people who would just, like my mother, for example, she won't mind me saying this. No, a big giant, don't do that. A lot of fear around medicinals and any drugs. Right. Who knows why, right? Those books that are on the shelf that got opened, who knows? But I think it's so important that we talk about the both and of things, and as these things are here and they are a part of our world. I love what you said about the way Meg maybe she's perhaps using it. I think she is in the ceremonial way and using it with interventions that are really purposeful and directed. Same way with the ayahuasca, where we're responsibly understanding, harvesting the vine and understanding what we are pulling from, actually not pulling from, receiving from Mother Earth, because that unique human nature of our own to be able to partner and collaborate and ask for what we need from Mother Earth is there in that scenario, right? So really thankful that you could.
Yeah. And I cannot be emphatic enough around whatever you're buying, whether it's ketamine or now a lot of people are buying mushrooms. Know who you're buying it from, because I keep hearing that it's being laced with fentanyl and all kinds of other things that are deadly.
Yeah. That was the topic of conversation yesterday. Unfortunately, that was how that realized it was a CPS visit, and it just is. I think we really do need to. We are being evolved to listen to those cautionary, important reasons why we might want to listen and lean into the bit of fear that's there. That okay, there's something there, and it really could even be landing in the space of the vendors that are actually authorized to do this, to do specific sales and treatments. There's a lot of scripting going on now with even, gummies, and THC, CBD and all of that. And it's not a bad thing, but also something that we're really evolving into understanding our own nature. What is this for me? What am I using this for? Why is this beneficial for me? Asking those questions that only we can answer, and we get to answer them, really. I think it behooves us to get to know the guy behind the checkout and the woman behind the register, and to connect on a heart level. That can't hurt anyone, right? It's like there's something there. And even on Amazon, sometimes I imagine the person filling the order, like they're loving filling this order. I don't know. Just the heart knows. I think that with your meditation this morning that you led, we are doing so much work now, and hearing that come up so much more about that journey from head to heart, and so much more emphasis, rightfully so, in my opinion, is landing on that heart space, so that it is naturally opening us up into conversations at the grocery store, or at the checkout, or at the doctors when they're scripting us things that are the next best or the greatest thing on, sliced bread, right? It's so important.
Right. And anyway, it's important to use our own judgment.
Yeah, our discretion, as you said. Yeah. Yes. Beautiful. So I wanted to, just because I know that today this is going to go a little bit in the other direction, but today being, yesterday being this momentous day for me, for my daughter, and for, you as a part of our family, because I count you as such. I was remembering back also that I think you have a medical minded daughter in the background, and I'm, moving with this child who has taught me more in one lifetime than anyone on the planet. And she's now 23, as I said. And so I just wondered, some, like, when we set out, as mothers so often do, to model, what is on our heart to be and have in this world. And it has evolved for sure in our home, thanks to very many trusted friends and therapists, to just be that, just be who we are, and let the, chips fall where they are, and just to let things be picked up or let go of, and not force, our way on others. I was just really keenly interested in how that has evolved in your own daughter's experience. If you can share any of that, you don't have to. But what does she think of her mother, who's not an official shaman at all? What does she think of her mother's choices, and or hypothetically, what might a doctor that's so in that system of Western med?
She rolls her eyes a lot. And, she goes, well, whatever. She just accepts me for who I am. I accept her for who she is. And that's about it. We don't talk much about it, because she's very much in the Western medical model. And also she's an orthopedist, so it's very cut and dry.
Right. Yeah, you don't go to a shaman for a broken bone that's like bleeding out. You just don't. Or to heal your hip that is clearly fractured. Got it. Yeah.
And she goes, well, if it helps people, that's good.
Yeah. I feel that's a real common a way I relate as well to your bridging that, and just a good light and a model in the world to let other mothers maybe know that it's okay to just do what is on your heart to do and be who you are, and to let our children find their way in systems that are evolving as well, and that we do need, that both and. So it's just interesting that many of the diagnoses even that we give that our children or we have been assigned, for example, autism, ADHD, all these different labels and labels and labels upon labels, right? They come with the strengths. Like, I want someone in the orthopedic zone that is highly focused and not able to just lose it and look at birds flying away, right? I want that person who is highly focused on that. Yeah. So I think that's you're a cool example of that, your family, and I recognize that.
I mean, she's pediatrics, but she's also incredibly kind and incredibly empathetic. So she doesn't quite believe in all the things that I believe in, but her heart is there. Her kindness is there, so it's not all cut and dry.
Yeah. I would say that's the way I would describe many of these gifted individuals as well that step into medicine in that way. They're just, their hearts are leading them to that. And I have stepped into this, thank God you don't look or sound like me. Thank God you are, showing up in all the ways you do. Yeah. Well, what else do we want to share with our viewers today? I know we've touched upon a lot, but I feel like there's some other, something else there that's just wanting to be held in safe space. What else would you like to tell us about what's going on in your now moment? I know you're traveling.
Well, I'm taking a lot of vacations.
Yeah, good for you. We are as well. My youngest and I are going to head out to Costa Rica in a week or so, and we're actually going to take an immersion with Tantra and some others that are in the field.
Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. It's good to be able to travel again.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm giving some trainings and small trainings, and taking some trainings, which is fun. So we'll see what comes up.
Forever learner out there saying yes to an invitation to be in good space and good friends, I imagine. It's wonderful. So if people wanted to connect with you, your website is moniquelang.com.
LCSW.
LCSW.com. And we'll put that in the content that comes in.
It's better if they can. I never look at my website. It's better if they use my email, Monique Lang, LCSW @gmail.
Okay, Monique Lang, LCSW@gmail.com. Great. Yeah. And like I said, these trainings, I did notice that the Kripalu is a beautiful retreat center up in the Berkshires, right? Isn't it like just outside of Massachusetts, about halfway between Syracuse and it's in that general Saratoga, that area, right? Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. I'm going to put the email.
It's in the Berkshires.
Yep. LCSW. I'm going to put your email in the chat. Tantra's asking me. We have a behind the scenes ally helping us. So Monique Lang, LCSW@gmail.com. Yeah, that's a great way to connect. If you're local in the Syracuse or upstate New York area, but anywhere really online, we've been working globally with Zoom. It's wonderful to connect today and to be able to have the technology to do that. The Bali trip is intriguing and looks wonderful. So I want to hear more about that after that's complete. When is that coming up so that I can know and have that in my?
It's November 27th to December 4th. And you get my weekly newsletter, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
The link is on there.
Okay. And that's an open to the public invitation as well, right? Or is it just therapists?
It's mostly for therapists and coaches and or people who have done a lot of work with internal family systems.
Gotcha. Okay.
It sounds like a lot of fun. The person who's organizing also has all these side trips. So we're going to work with the Balinese shaman. We're going to go to waterfalls. We're going to go to rice fields. We're going to go to a temple, I think. We're going to get sound healing and massage. And oh my gosh, sounds amazing.
Oh my gosh. Well, as I jokingly said to you, I'll be your handler. I was like, let me carry it. Like, it's really sounds amazing. Yeah, and I'll have that.
Also, getting there looks is impossible.
Oh, quite an adventure, especially from here where we are with regional airports and.
Yeah, no, it's 27 hours. It's on the other side of the world. It's in Indonesia.
I really have to. This is a great way to like bring this to closure. Like your vital chi is like magnificent for the things that you take on. I honor this. You're the kind of people I want to be with to just celebrate 27 hours. Like many people, much more naive, I'm going to say newer to this planet, would have a hard time saying yes to that invitation. And you say yes.
I'm really excited. I'm going to celebrate my 80th birthday there.
How divinely orchestrated is that? Oh my gosh. Well, I have it down on my calendar. And, to the point of your newsletters are fantastic. What I love about your newsletters is they oftentimes are a one word to grab my attention. It could be something as simple as gratitude or whatever the one word is. And then the beautiful, short, very connective language. And then they go into many offerings. You're always so generous. Like, not only do you say yes, I mean this from that, you say yes to others, but you promote others, share others, and promote's a horrible word, despicable word, but invite others to connect with others so openly. And you do that really well in your newsletters. So if anyone wants to connect into these like really good information during the week, month when they come out, you'll want to go to the website, I think, to subscribe to the newsletters. Is that the best way, or is it just email you?
Email me. I never look
Email.
at it.
Yep.
It's a foreign country to me.
Well, it's beautiful, by the way, because I actually did look at it briefly a week or two back, and it was, I mean, it's beautiful. But yeah, so let's just, for everyone, connect through the Gmail, which is also just so really nice too, to know that when you email Monique Lang, lcsw@gmail.com, Monique Lang, that you see here leading, beautiful meditations, is going to answer that email. Like, I think there's something to be said about the way that you reach people all around, and you're still doing that work, almost not quite 80. And also, anything else? Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close out our view?
Grateful for this conversation. Thank you for inviting me, and looking up for more conversations.
Beautiful. Yeah, we may even want to have you back again. I just feel like there's so much more that like we could touch upon, but thank you so much for saying yes. And I look forward to seeing you in the flesh and giving you a big hug in person soon when you get home. I hope you have a wonderful trip and take precious care. Thanks, Monique. Bye. Thanks, everyone.